in 2024, December, saying there's corruption. Bring it.
Let me ask you this question. I would like to ask the AG to propose legislation for what we call small claims court. There are lots of poor people, to an example you just gave, that they have issues with others and sometimes with large firms, but the lawyer fee is greater than the fee you're claiming.
It is their
right.
Unlike the right that someone has, all our rights exist in context.
What is the context of a second medical opinion?
Because of disrespecting the process.
No.
Jesus, this is common sense, man.
Any situation which you seem to do, you're just dealing with Afro-Guyanese issues. If one, you can't bring and pull the leaders of the African community together, you're failing. And if two, you can't put forward a future, a blueprint, and a plan for African Guyanese, you're failing as well.
Hi there. Pleasant Monday evening to you. We'd like to inform you first of all, there's no call in tonight. Please do not call in. There is no call in tonight. I will repeat it as we go along. This is election week, and for the week, Leonard, Craig, and I will be looking at the election trend as the days go up to September the 1st. I repeat, for the week, the Freddie Kissoon Show will take the format as looking at the election as the days go on. Whatever you want to call it. Election watch is boring. It's so many programs. Election watch, election countdown. I always believe you should try as much as possible to be original. So this is the election analysis of Craig and I for the week. We may get guests Wednesday or Friday, but it's election. So there is no call in this evening. Obviously, anywhere in the world, if you have a general election a week before a talk show, it's going to be on election. So you'll have to spare us this evening about the call-ins and the bridges and the garbage. We understand that, and hopefully after the election, those things will gradually disappear. So Craig and I are doing our dialogue, but it's on election. As you will know, for the past couple of months, Craig and I have been rapping or been exchanging views on the contents of Guyana, mostly political, cultural, and sociological. So we are looking at the elections this evening. We'll be doing that on Wednesday. We'll be doing that on Friday. I don't know if we're going to have a program on Monday evening. The whole of Guyana will be busy. I don't know where I will be. We'll try, the show must go on. We'll try to have a program. I'm sure we wouldn't have Craig with us because he is a campaigner and probably will be with his fellow campaigners all over Guyana, maybe even out of Region 4. But I'll try my best to see if we can have a Monday evening program. I could probably take it by myself and reflect on the election campaign. But for now, I know I've been saying it since the program began, but I say it again. There is no call-in. Don't call in. Just digest what Craig and I will be saying about the elections. I will start out with a class politicized, unprofessional piece of journalism. You know what is vulgar is when a journalist, a commentator, an academic go on the seawall and see the waves coming over the wall. See how many people are looking at the waves. And then a newspaper or a television station will announce that it was a pleasant day on the seawall, there were hardly people there. Then you know that is degeneracy. I was out on nomination day. I saw, and Craig will see that too, nomination day is when you pull out all the stops and you say we're going to show the world, not the country, how big we are. I was on nomination day. I saw what was going on. The largest contingent of nomination bandwagoners was from the PPP. Then it was not as large as the PPP. And obvious was APNU. Do you know what the Starbook News has said today, Monday, for its Monday, August 25 edition? I will read for you. I stand alone in this country on many, many issues, writing, on television, on social media, saying things that no one has touched. Now, you can call that chauvinism, you can call it whatever you want, but I have stood alone many, many times. I am the only man in this country the past 25 years to say, watch that guy Vishnu Besram. He's not doing these polls. He's just coming up with these polls. And I'm the first man to say, watch this guy GHK Lal. That's when he first come and he started to write and nobody understand what he was saying. I said, this guy's a publicity seeker. I stood alone since 2020 and said, look, the Starbook News has gone. That's an opposition newspaper that wants the PPP out. Let me read what the Starbook News said today about the three bandwagons of nomination people going to GCOM to submit their list. I read for you. Winds showing on nomination day on July 14 along the seawall on the way to Umanayana was an impressive sea of blue and had appeared to outrank even the PPPC's presence that day. I don't believe, I'm not a believer. Craig is a strong Seventh-day Adventist. Oh, Jesus Christ, man. Oh my God, man. That is not true. Let me read that again. Winds showing a nomination day on July 14 along the seawall on the way to Umanayana was an impressive sea of blue and had appeared to outrank even the PPC's presence that day. This is a hateful newspaper. This is a newspaper that is worse than any newspaper in the history of the CARICOM family of nations. I was there. The PPP had a contingent, a school, a bandwagon of people that were double the size of WIN. The PNC's nomination bandwagon was larger than WIN. How can this newspaper, how can the Starbook say that? Tell me something. You see what we have to deal with in this country? You pick up social media, you pick up the newspaper, you watch the television, you think, the PPP, these ministers are bad people. This is bad. This is degenerate. This is... My God, I don't believe in God, but I have to say, my God. A newspaper could be out there on nomination day. Look at that sea of red, that ocean of red, that tsunamic outpouring of red. Everybody know the PPP just poured everything into it on nomination day. No, man, no. Maybe it's time after the election to call for the boycott of this. This is not the private media. No. Craig. Oh, before Craig comes in. A mango pelter. I have got another mango pelter. These mango pelters go quite often, and so Leonard Craig has bought another mango pelter for me. I want it, they go all the time. So mango pelter from Leonard Craig. What's the how you gotta put an image onto it?
Yeah, buddy.
Look.
You gotta fix it up. You're now
Well, fix it
opening
up. Fix it up.
All right.
Fix
Well,
it up.
when we finish, you're gonna fix it.
Well, let
up.
the people. What's this on it?
It's just a plastic.
Right, we're putting a it has a thing. It has a battery inside.
No,
the
the battery,
that-
everything in the box is a brand new thing, buddy.
So you can't get an image yet on it.
No, not yet.
So Leonard Craig bought a mango pelter. I need two more because they go quite often. This is my old one here. So on to Leonard Craig and what he has to say.
All right. I haven't had the chance to read the article, but the headline says analysis three-way race scene for elections. For a person to even contemplate that there will be a three-way race is somewhat delusional. Well, they might be right in the sense that you know, when you're doing distance race, Freddie, somebody just come back and lap the others. Yeah. So it could still be three. It'll still be first, second, and third, but by what measure and by what distance? But I figure the article is saying three-way race, meaning that the votes would be distributed in almost equal fashion. And it's only a few days remaining, and we'll see. But I think that is off, and off by a lot. The other thing is, I recently wrote an article entitled "Commodifying the Election."
That's today's
yes,
Chronicle.
Today, commodifying. Now, what is meant is that there is so much money going into propping up image rather than doing organic political work. So much money going into propping up image is tantamount to making the election a commodity, to the extent where even appearance fees at meetings is a feature. So you just go and stand up and attend the meeting and you get paid. And there are videos around, and videos that was submitted and put up on YouTube and Facebook by people who have no skin in the game, by foreigners, by, showing that the presidential candidate for win has been paying people literally, and have people going into especially some of the interior communities with a bag of money and handing out money. So people, you come and you attend and you get money. And GCOM, acting on intelligence, has decided that, here, look, we are going to forbid cell phones inside of the polling booth, the actual place where you mark your X. And if you could recall that the PPP originally opposed that move because, there was some hesitancy on the PPP's part. They're saying, look, if I take my phone in there and then I refuse to put away my phone, will you deny me from voting? That was the lingering question for the PPP. Will you deny me from voting? And if you do, then it goes right back to the 1997 case where the election was vitiated because people showed up without ID cards and were not allowed to vote. Now, then once intelligence information was provided, the PPP had to agree to that move, because the intelligence is suggesting that there's a fee set aside for anybody who voted for that party. A fee set aside, and we were made to understand it is like 50,000 or more. So once you can produce a photograph of your vote for the win party, you cash in on a $50,000. And that is something that is commodifying elections. So election for trade. So if we continue with that illegality, or if that illegality is allowed to stand, then you might as well just go and buy a president, right? Presidency to the highest bidder. So normal working class people will no longer have a say in our democracy, right? Because, you have some money to throw around, you just come and throw your money around, and people will vote, especially poorer people, because they want to cash in. What I'll say though is that Guyanese people understand, and Guyanese people know that is beneath their dignity, that their vote is not for sale to the highest bidder, that we are a people who will make our decision based on the evidence of which party is keeping its promise or has kept its promise. And that is what the majority of Guyanese are going on. I also want to address the question of racial voting. What we have seen, and I always say, that is what drew me to the AFC, that the AFC represented a promise that Guyana would be unified, that Guyana will not look at race and color and religion. And for me, at the time, being a member of the AFC, that promise was alive. That hope was alive. But when the AFC took office, the AFC never cashed in on that dream. The AFC never cashed the check. And so the dream was not realized. And under Dr. Mohammed Irfan Ali, we see him making efforts every single day. And there's so many opposition elements who are spewing hate. And everything they say is not to do with policy or anything. They're calling people, and young people are not responding to that anymore. Young people don't want to be forced into a hateful relationship, that their future and their voting decision must be based on hate. And so that message is falling flat on its face. And what I notice is that the elements who are stoking fear in Guyana and who are going deeper into the message of race are people who don't live here, are people who have a one-way ticket out of Guyana, are people who have never been to Guyana for the last 2 decades. And they are the ones punching keyboard day in and day out, 3, 4, 5 times a day, inundating your social media space with a call to hate. We as Guyanese people, we as Afro-Guyanese people will reject that message. We will reject that call. And on the 1st of September, whomever you vote for, who's looking at this program, I made no secret that I prefer you vote for the PPP. But even if you don't, let your decision not be based on hate. Now, let it not be hate driven. Let it be driven by reason, and let it be driven by the track record of Irfan Ali in this term. One last thing I have to say that I can say on this program, but and that is, many people are saying to me from time to time, Facebook, some people I interact with in the street and so on, that this fault the government has, that fault the government have, and you're not saying anything. And I am saying now that the AFC had lots of faults in and out of government, and nobody ever heard me while a member of the AFC saying anything in public against the AFC. But while I were in the AFC, I held their feet to the fire. Ask Kemraj Ramjitan, ask Raphael Trotman, ask David Patterson. I was like a thorn in their flesh. So for AFC to straighten up and fly right. And I am still the same person. I do nothing different. Now I support the PPP. You can't expect me, being an activist of the PPP, to come in the public and highlight all of its faults. But I'm saying to you, at the forums available to me, both personal and in whatever other setting, I do make my beliefs known in just the same way, in just about the same way as I did in the AFC. In the AFC, I had a little more ownership because of the length of time I spent there and rising through the ranks and things like that. I've just come to the PPP, and you cannot expect my effect in the PPP to be the same, but I can assure people that as time goes by and my support for the PPP grows and my contribution grows, you can be assured that the leadership of the PPP's feet will be held to the fire as far as I am able. And so, for that reason, there is probably a reason why I was with the AFC from 2005 right up to 2020. Because at that time, I felt that the PPP was not on its best behavior. And so you can't come to me now and ask me to account for the PPP in the past. I have seen growth in the PPP since 2020, and that is what I am responding to. And that PPP now represents that dream that I had hoped for in the AFC, a dream of unity, development, and so many other things, that positive things that you would want in your government. Is the PPP perfect? No. But the growth and the growth trajectory and the plans for the next term outranks and outweighs every other party existing today in Guyana. And that is what I am responding to. And that is what I entreat the listeners, the viewers, to respond to. Freddie?
I want to show you, I want to discuss with you the irony of racial rhetoric, racial sermonizing, and the bold advocacy of racism. I want to show you the irony of it. Now, look at this photograph here. photographs. There's 3 of them. And it says three-way race scene for election. And it has an Indian newcomer, an Indian man, a practicing Muslim man, the newcomer. And the article goes on to state here that Azruddin Mohammed has taken, as APNU have lost some leaders to Mohammed. So if Azruddin has lost, if the PNC has lost some leaders to Azruddin is an Indian man. Azruddin is a practicing Muslim. Now you would think with all that David Hines, Takuma Ogunse, and all of them were saying that PNC would have lost some leaders to maybe Amanzo Walton's party, maybe to Nigel Yu's party. What does that tell you? It tells you that we are a different Guyana. We are not the Guyana of the 70s, 80s, and 90s anymore. That 1997 thing about slow fire, more fire, that's gone. There are people, including David Hines' daughter, that said to themselves, we are going to make a choice. We're leaving the PNC, David Hines' daughter, other Kojo McPherson, Will Johnson spoke about, and he named McPherson another high-level person in the APNU campaign. And they have gone with an Indian man that's a practicing Muslim. What does that tell you? It tells you one thing only, that we have changed in which people are looking and saying, let me see about candidates. Let me see about issues. They're not saying, let me see about race. If race was still an endemic factor in this country, and that's where people are just talking nonsense, day in, day out, about the unchanging racial narrative. Look at this article that Alisa Trotz put in the diaspora. Class colonialism and the state of Guyana's democracy, by some guy named Ferlin Pedro. Never heard about him. But he again is race. Do you know we have been slowly and gradually moving away from the race mentality of Guyanese? In 2005, 2006, a multiracial party won 5 seats, the AFC. In 2011, Bobbies voted for the AFC. In 2015, there was a multiracial voting that caused the AFC to be in power. The fourth example, look at the videos where Azruddin Mohammed is going, and you see the crowds of African Guyanese. Do you know at every meeting since last week, the PNC is cussing down Azruddin Mohammed? Cussing him down badly. I think it's even in today's papers, it's in today's Chronicle, they give an example from the opposition leader Norton, right down to the ordinary person who's giving a 5-minute speech on the platform. They're cussing down Azruddin Mohammed. Bad now, in some PNC meeting, they're not even mentioning the PPP is Azruddin Mohammed. You know why? African Guyanese are going in the direction of an Indian Muslim man named Azruddin Mohammed, and not Nigel Hughes, and not Nigel London, not Amanzo Walton deserve. As an educated person in sociology, political theory, anthropology, culture, if you're educated in those areas, political economy, What does the Azzuddin Mohammed intrusion into politics tell you? It tells you that there are people in the African Guyanese community that the PNC thought they owned, and in the PNC leadership that thought they owned, are going not to John Jones, not to Wilfred Smith, not to Tony Black, but to an Indian man named Azzuddin Mohammed. Whether you think it's wrong for them to go to this wannabe guy, this man who sooner or later is going to end up in the US court, whether you think they like to, the sociological fact is that it manifests in a graphic way the gradual dilution of the racial choice. That is what it graphically shows. Now, if you go on Facebook, you will see Mr. Forbes Burnham's daughter and his son-in-law in a PPP crowd. You know what Melanie Burnham said in her mind? My father died 1985. Guyana has changed beyond recognition, and that is why David Hines' daughter left David Hines WPA and gone to win, because they're saying this is a different, the dialectics have transformed Guyana. And you know what is going to happen the next 5 years? The racial factor will be gone. People are going to look at politicians coming up, who they are, how educated they are, how talented they are, that thing about the C word and the black people, those things are going. And the 2025 election with Azzuddin Mohammed's presence have shown that. And that is where the academics come in. I don't think Azzuddin Mohammed is going to go anywhere. I think that man is a very dangerous man that should not be tolerated by this country, given what I know of his mentality, of his mind. I know about the Main Street incident. I know about, there's a lot of things we know. We know because we're in journalism and we belong to political society. When I heard he was contesting the election to be president, that was so unpalatable to me, who have devoted all his life to fighting for the freedoms of the Guyanese people. And I got older, he jumped into the political fray when I have become old. If he had done that when I was in my 40s and early 50s, I would have jumped in the bandwagon and confronted him. Given his history, Guyana has no right to tolerate him. I hope on Friday the 1st, whatever choice you make, it should be a very good, decent, philosophically inclined man. I know of an Ali. I have not said this many times. I've said it about 3-4 times in my Chronicle columns. I do a daily column for the Chronicle. Everybody knows that now. And I'm going to say something that I never brought out with powerful grammatical outlay in those columns. I'm going to say it now. I've had some close moments with him, and we talked. And I am telling you, I sense destiny with that man in Guyana. I think that man is going to outflank and outstrip the CARICOM leaderships, the CARICOM leaders, the charismatic prime ministers that we have known in the CARICOM family. I think he is going to maneuver himself with his legacy that he's going to be above Jagan and Burnham. I've had some very philosophical, reflecting moments with him. He sat on the sofa. I sat not opposite him. I sat on the sofa adjoining my sofa, and we've talked. And at my age, with my philosophical training, you can't easily fool me. You cannot fool me. I have two types of senses that few people in the world have. Now, you're going to think that's chauvinism and bravado. I shouldn't say few. But I'll tell you why I say few. I say few, that's because of my age. I'm in my early 70s. I have two types of sense. I grew up on the streets, hungry. I grew up in dirt poverty, liming on the streets. In the streets in the morning, little ground coffee, and you're gone out on the street with your friends and you're coming back in the night and your mother cooks some cassava, what is it? Cassava with egg. And I developed street sense. I know when people want to con you. I know when I see a con. So I have street sense. And then I have academic intellectual sense. I've been to 3 universities, including one of the best in the world, up to the doctoral program. And that philosophical training gives me a capacity to judge people outside of my street sense. And I apply that. I'm thankful to my wife and my parents and the dialectics of Guyana that I was able to have those both types of senses. And I could have, when I was talking to Jadon, I never spoke to Burnham, but I could apply those things to so many politicians, so many of them, hundreds that I've met in my life. And that street sense and intellectual sense kick in. And I'm telling you this, and this program will probably be researched by people who are writing on the legacy of Ali. They will probably take this program. I have had some moments with him that I've never written about. And he talking and I listening. And then I talking and I saying things. And you can't fool me. And then I could see through you. I could see through you because the street sense is kicking in. And the intellectual analysis is there guiding you. And I talked to Chedi, and I thought Chedi was a very, very decent, uncorruptible, non-corruptible man who wanted the best for Guyana. I've never spoken to Burnham, but I sense Burnham had a tremendous vision of how you can take a country and move it away from what the colonials have done with it. And he sat down and he said, I want that. I want to shape a country where we don't have to depend on these people who colonize us. But he had a huge oceanic fault. He wanted to do that by himself because he think he alone was equipped to do that. And in the process, it led him down a cesspool of danger and violence. So I have spoken to Ali in ways that I don't want to expand on this program. And if you're looking at this program before you vote, unapologetically, I don't want to use unjournalistic language. I don't give a damn, never give a damn what people said to me. They didn't put food in my mouth when I was starving on Durban Street in Workmanville. They did not send me to 3 universities. I owe an obligation to one human being in this world. It's an obligation larger than the 3 combined rivers. She made me. She tolerated me. She shaped me. And that's my wife. And when my wife said to me, don't wear that, don't go there, I have that obligation. Isu Prasad and Anil Nanlal have been very, very important factors in my life at critical moments that did critical things to me. And so I have an obligation. Isu Prasad is dead and gone. If Anil Nanlal pick up the phone, I will go right away. I owe him that. So I don't give a damn what people say about me. I am saying that Orphan Ali is the best we have produced in politics after Burnham and Jagan. And he has gone in a direction where we will eclipse those two. He is a better leader than anyone that I see the CARICOM family has produced. And I am apologetically saying to you, Give that man a second term and he will do phenomenal shapes, phenomenal turns with this country. We are seeing it already. He has his faults. I would be stupid to say a human doesn't have. All humans have faults. I see it every day. I see it in me. I see it in me. They have faults. And he has his faults? Yes. I could tell you one of his faults. I think he should have raised the senior citizen pension 3 years ago to a huge amount. I think that's I would see as one of his faults. But now he says he will correct that after he gets in. He will raise it to 60,000. So he has his faults. I'm not denying that Burnham didn't have his vision. Burnham has his vision. Burnham was a very, very visionary man. You're going to be stupid to think that Burnham wasn't a bright, phenomenal, erudite man that knew how to move Guyana away from the colonial mess it was in. These people have their faults and they have their vision. Fortunately, Ali didn't go down the route of Burnham. But Burnham was visionary, Chelly was visionary, and for God's sakes, Ali is visionary. Give President Ali a second term. For God's sakes. Aubrey Norton doesn't deserve to be the leader of the PNC on the basis of racial thinking. Aubrey has disappointed this country. I don't want to say anything but Aswaddin Mohammed. The least said of that man, better, and I think that man is facing a very uncertain a future in which his chances of liberty may be curtailed. I think I've said enough on that. We'll come back to that. Over to...
I just want to stick just a little bit more on what you said earlier about the days of racial voting done and gone. And I believe so deeply. If you give people of whatever race in Guyana enough reasons to believe in your leadership, they will vote for you. We saw that in the AFC, we saw that in the thing. But there is something you said that I find strongly in the PNC camp, and to the extent they are willing to relieve themselves of that burden, that is the extent to which they will begin to become successful, because they will be real to themselves. And it is the factor you spoke of earlier. They somehow believe that Afro-dominated neighborhoods are supposed to vote PNC no matter what. And they seem to believe that these neighborhoods contain only people who think that way. And so when you demonstrate that that is not the way you're thinking, or that is not the way you work out your political matrix, they respond with vexation, more or less. And let me just give you two quick examples. Example one, during the 2020 election campaign, of course, I was with APNUAFC, and I was responsible for managing the prime ministerial candidates, his schedule, requests for meetings, and all of that was something I managed. And I spent a lot of time pouring through the voters list, because I believe that, well, I did that for Moses in 2015 and did that for Ramshitan in 2020. And Ramjitan had a term that he used, flaking off, meaning targeting PPP constituencies, and you're not going to get a deluge of support, but you can break off in voting population of 80, you could break off 8 to 10. And if you do that throughout, it could add up to something. And we refer to it as flaking off. And so I pour a lot of time in looking through results, historical results for areas and so on, different places, parts in the country, and then attempt to use Ramjitan, because I was handling his schedule, to target those areas, right? I would share the information with him, and then he would say, yes, let's go, or whatever. And in Region 10, we identified a couple of communities that vote heavily for the PPP as communities. And one of the area we found was in Kokwani. And when I looked through Kokwani, there's an area called Lamp Island that vote heavily for the PPP. So I said, if we are going to win this election, there's no sense going to target Waterfront and the other thing. Go to Kokwani, unleash your candidate that is most likely to appeal to that crowd. And so we planned this meeting that we go into Lamp Island. The PNC person who was the area manager said to us, this is the prime ministerial candidate, Freddie, said to us, no, you can't just plan a meeting to come into Region 10 just so. They're saying that to the AFC people. You can't just plan a meeting to come into Region 10 just so. We got to approve the meeting. And the prime ministerial candidate had already planned, everything was there. And the PNC people just cancel everything. And I'm saying, wait, you accepting that? The prime ministerial candidate said, man, I don't want no thing, and so on. And throughout the campaign, we never got to campaign there. The prime ministerial candidate never got there. Nobody from the AFC ever got there. And the PNC never went there. The larger point is, apart from being gatekeepers and owners of the turf, so to speak, they also do not show interest in going into PPP enclaves. So they believe that they have what they have, they must protect it, and no expansion. And so I am not surprised that there is a crisis of leadership. Where I don't have to preach that to anybody. I am not surprised there's a crisis of leadership in the PNC. I am not surprised also that Afro-Guyanese in large numbers are going after parties that are not led or that were extracted from the PNC. For example, Amanza Walton Desir, Simona Brooms, Nigel Hughes, they were all together and so people see them as the same brand of leaders. And because of this crisis of leadership, they are literally looking for leadership elsewhere. And they have found some of them in the T. Mohammed and some of them, more of them in the PPP. And all that we find is that the PNC is reacting to it violently. Well, people might misinterpret that. I'm not saying that they
verbally violently.
Right.
Verbal violence.
Yeah, and that is how that's their reaction to it, and that doesn't win anything. That what it will do it will isolate people more than it will attract them. Because if you keep calling me a soup drinker every day, there is no way that I coming back or I will consider being numbered in that any of those ranks ever again, ever in my life. And there are lots of Afro-Guyanese people who may have just, in some cases, some people may have just come to look around. You know, let me go to one of these meetings, let me hear what these people got to say, you know, and so on. And by the time you see these people, they come under attack. And when you look at the level and the things that people say, how you going to say, we are still comrades, and I don't consider coming back, and no, that is complete alienation, and I don't think the PNC get that. I really don't think they get it.
There is, if he had written this on social media, it probably would have been more, it would have had more reach. There is an established university lecturer in literature at Eugenium Al Crichton. Mm-hmm. And Crichton wrote a very interesting piece, and it was in the mainstream media. But you gotta understand, as you would know, if that was on Facebook, he was explaining the changing nature of African culture. Mm-hmm. And he explained how so many things that African people knew, embrace, and practice are gone. Now, one of the things that David Hines and Aubrey Norton and Nigel Hughes, very disappointed in that respect, because he had a more multiracial image before 2015, is that kind of Wickford Burke scenario, bench up scenario, those people days are gone. They're not even faded, jaded superstars. Nobody in Guyana knows who's Takuma Ogunse and cares about Takuma Ogunse and listen to his message. Mm-hmm. People, if you read Burke, even the people who started to read him about 10 years ago are probably gone. Yeah. Because every day is the same thing. The racist worms crawling in the belly, and they're looking out the window for shoot black people. Yeah. That kind of thing, nobody wants to read that or hear that thing anymore.
The people who comment under, you'll see, is the same people every day. And because he ends up with 100 and something comments,
he believes
he thinks that
is what happened to David Hines.
Yeah.
When David Hines get on, he sing and his program start and he playing a calypso, and then people saying, yes,
yeah,
doctor, yes. And now David Hines goes to meeting with Takuma Ogunse. You should see these videos. You just see them talking, and the camera's not panning. The camera's not panning at all. The camera's stationary. David Hines talking, Kidaki Amsterdam talking, and they're up on a stage with a little soapbox, and and you're not seeing the crowd because they were kept alive by their own narcissism, by their own deceptions. It's like I've been saying since 2020, nobody in this country knows what the Guyana Human Rights Association does. We have a call-in program for an hour and a half, and you hear the complaints about NIS. And you yourself say, well, I will look into it. Nobody knows but the stab book brings them alive. They issue a press release, and the stab book gives them front page. Takuma Ogunse urged the police force to use guns against the government. And when he was charged at one soul outside the magistrate court, not one soul outside Big Dam police station. And David Hines, day in, night out, and his...
and look
Look,
They,
they went over to Azzuddin, including his daughter, and not even to him.
Yeah, it's a complete failure of that message. And as I said, a lot of the people who are still bandwagoning that message are people who don't live in Guyana, right? The people who are on that train
it's Ben Chop,
are very, very few.
it's Ben Chop, Wickford Burke, Melly Mel, and couple people who say when they post, yeah man, yeah girl.
But if you look at those same man
It's
people,
the same people all the time.
apart from it being the same people, if you follow their profile and you look at where they live, they don't live in Guyana.
Yeah.
And they shout you down from across the seas. And when you take the group of who actually live here, their comments are more moderate. Some are very hateful as well. But generally, people are giving up on that message, right? And it just isn't working. It just that's not the Guyana people. That's not the future that people wants to.
It ties in with what Al Crichton was saying. When you listen to David Hines and he plays his calypso that was recorded in the 70s about black people, and Trinidad itself has changed. Trinidad switched from African party to an Indian-dominated party. To even the calypso you play have lost their relevance. And what Crichton was saying is that narrative, those customs, those practices are no longer with African people. It's a good column for people to read, but it was limited in newspaper. People don't read the Starbuck, the Kaicho. They look at social media. And that is something that I'm surprised that Nigel Hughes got into. Because when he resigned from AFC and he was kind of quiet, he suddenly surfaced and he was on Wickford Burke's Wickford Burke podcast all the time, David Hines all the time. I remember one time he went to Box and said, we can drag you to the table, and if you don't want to come to the table, we can drag you to the table. And look at the AFC today. Look at it. I thought Nigel would have pulled out the race after that poor showing in Linden. You know, and I still think a couple days to go, he should, because Nigel Hughes will be gone from Guyana when that voting is when that votes are released.
Yeah. The AFC showing will, in my opinion, be extremely poor. They really messed up the attempts at coalition, because that's the only, you see, it is the coalition that brought AFC to its knees, and it was the coalition that had to save the AFC. If the AFC wanted another lease on life, it would have had to hide in the coalition, and while in the coalition, win or lose, but most likely lose, the AFC would have had to reinvent and rebuild itself, because by being in the coalition, it would have picked up a couple of seats. But now that reality is disappearing.
Has disappeared.
Well, right, has disappeared and has gone, literally. And so it is as if Aubrey, together with Ricky Ramsaroop, Sherrod Duncan, and Joretta Finance, have signed the death warrant of the AFC, because the AFC had reached a point where it was ready to agree to almost anything.
But you notice Nigel is doing something. Nigel is doing something that no other parties are doing. It's just him alone that are being videoed and that is being planted on the landscape. He don't even appear in any video with him
doing the same thing.
He don't. But one can understand that with Azzuddin. And that is why Azzuddin didn't name a prime ministerial candidate. Azzuddin said, if I name a prime ministerial candidate, I have to go with that person. And that person got, and suppose that person make a speech, and the speech is so powerful that anybody start to clap. What will happen to me? So also then ego is malignant. Do you know there's a video circulating before we go? A guy named Darwin Best. Darwin Best, VPAC. Best said, Azzuddin Mohammed invited him to be part, to them to join up, right? And they just told him, he said to them, well, what is my role? What is the role of my part? He said, no, don't worry, just come with us. So he told and said, these people are so chauvinistic that you won't got, they recognize you got any thoughts or any demands or anything. That is what, of course, Azzuddin is. That's the reason why he hasn't got a prime ministerial candidate. But Niger wouldn't even put Ramjatan near him. And you say, look, those are Ramjatan, the famous. It's just him alone. But the operator signaled that our time has come. I think we're going to be doing this for the week. We will have guests, but we're going to be doing this for the week. This is an election week. And we've got to talk to the Guyanese people. This has been an hour of Leonard and I rapping and giving our analysis. We will see you Wednesday for sure. We will see you Friday for sure. This is election week and we have to talk about election. Leonard has bought a newer mango pellet for me. He has to what you call it, fix it. I just looked at it, and to put date and time, it says you got to insert a city. I don't know, my old mango pelter just adjust date and time. I don't know how you do that. But thanks for being with us. We'll see you on Wednesday. Hope you like the program, and please reflect on what I said about our finale. Catch you later. Bye-bye.